So with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet recently coming out, there's been over 100 new Pokemon introduced into the generation. Some better than others. Today I'm going to rank every single Pokemon and every single form introduced in Gen 9. So obviously in last place, I think for everybody, is the Dunsparce. Everything about this Pokemon is just a joke, and we all just got violated with this new evolution to Dunsparce, when they could have done so much more. And to make it up to us, they literally gave it 2 forms, one with 2 and 3 segments. But second last for me is actually a legendary Pokemon. The new Wo-Chien is part of the Ruin Pokemon, which are some of my favourite Pokemon from this generation. But this is just a grass snail with some wood on it. It's so unappealing, and even in competitive, it's the worst of the bunch. Brute Bonnet was one of the Paradox forms that I caught a glimpse of before the games came out, and I seriously thought it was fake because of how stupid it looked. Its stats are way higher than Amungus's, yet its typing, stat spread, and move pool just don't let it up to its predecessor, or I guess Brute Bonnet is Amungus's predecessor? When Grafaiai was revealed, I actually really liked its design, despite my brothers absolutely hating it. It was a new type combo in a cool way, and was based on a really interesting animal. And I didn't really expect it to get a pre-evolution. But then it did, and Trudel is just like, what? What is this? Trudel has a really weird shape, and other than its eyes, it doesn't really look like Grafaiai at all. And of course, I had to rank Squawkabilly this low. It's a single stage, weak, normal flying type bird Pokemon. And yeah, it has 4 forms, which is cool, and it has the Elvis hairstyle, but it's still a weak mon with a pretty weak design. Rellor is a bug rolling a ball of dirt. Doesn't seem like there's much inspiration there. And it's only bug type, so I don't really like it. Veluza is another single stage Pokemon. Another average fish Pokemon. Its stats are really bad and its design is alright, I guess. But it doesn't really stand out. Iron Jugulus, while not the worst of the Paradox forms, is just really meh. Its design hardly changes from Hydreigon, and its typing doesn't stand out either. Overall, a pretty meh Pokemon. Rabscat is Rellor's evolution, and it is significantly cooler than Rellor, but it's still not the most appealing Pokemon, and while the design is pretty cool and its typing is a big upgrade, its stats don't make up for it. I do really like the idea of how 2 completely separate Pokemon can almost look identical to each other, which sounds like a fantasy, but it does also happen in real life. So when Wiglet was revealed, it was pretty cool. But we're not talking about Wiglet, or even Wugtrio. These 2 spots belong to Toedscool and Toedscruel. And as I said, the idea of a mushroom and an octopus evolving to look similar is really cool. But the colours of Toedscool and Toedscruel just aren't appealing to me. I guess it is to portray their ground grass typing, but that isn't a good enough excuse for them to look unappealing. Another cool idea is a tumbleweed Pokemon. But when that Pokemon is literally just a tumbleweed with eyes, and the evolution is literally the exact same, yeah, I'm gonna have problems with that. And Bramblin and Brambleghast do have a cool typing. I really like the Grass Ghost type, but once again, it doesn't excuse its bad design. Another Paradox form low on the list is Slitherwing. And while the other Paradox forms low on the list don't stray far from their original design, that's why I don't like them. But Slitherwing looks nothing like Volcarona, other than its colours, and its typing is so weird it doesn't fit either. It could be Bug Dragon, but it's Bug Fighting for some reason. These 2 spots belong to the same Pokemon, Gimmighoul, because it has 2 forms, but one of them is only accessible in Pokemon Go, but I'm still putting them on the list, because it's still a form of Gimmighoul. And Gimmighoul is really weird. When it was revealed, I thought it was for sure going to be a single stage Pokemon, but thank God it's not, because its evolution is a lot cooler than Gimmighoul. And back to Grafaiai, this spot belongs to it. I mean, I couldn't really give a higher spot to something like this with a pretty mediocre typing and not the best stats. but I'm still giving it this spot because I like its design. Bombardier is an overall average design. Its inspiration is cool and how it's based on storks and the myth of how they deliver babies to parents' doors, but instead of that, Bombardier drops boulders on your face. Seems pretty deserving of the dark typing. But other than that, it's just an average design, and that's what gives it this spot. I don't really know why I thought Smoliv would get a cool evolution, especially because they specifically gave it the normal type. But I mean, Arboliva is alright. I guess it's just really plain, deserving of the normal type, I guess. Wugtrio is the evolution to Wiglet, and, you know, I don't know why they'd give Wiglet a cool evolution. Wugtrio is 3 red Wiglets. It's better than Diglett to Dugtrio, but it's not that much better. Bellibolt was another Mon revealed before release day, and of course it had to be revealed in this annoying trailer. That gave it minus 10 points. But excluding the video, I don't really like how its eyes are on the side of its head, and they're not actually eyes. Its eyes are the 2 yellow dots. I'm glad it's not normal type, unlike every other Pokemon like Bellibolt, but it's still not good enough to earn a higher ranking. These 2 spots might be a bit controversial, but they go to Wattrel and Kilowattrel. I did have a Kilowattrel on my team at one point, but it was just too plain for me to keep on my team. One thing I do like about it is how it's kind of the water bird of this generation, and you can find it near beaches, but this one's electric type and has a quad super effective stab on all other flying water birds. Also, electric flying is just a really cool type, but it's still too much of a plain design for me to rank higher. When Pawmi was revealed, I was fine with it being a single stage Pokemon, but then it did evolve. Or did it? Wait, is that Pawmi? No, that, what? Wait, that is Pawmi, but that's not? Yeah. Pawmi, Pomo, and Pawma all look the exact same. And yeah, electric fighting type is cool, but it doesn't really look like it deserves it. The first new Pokemon evolution revealed was Farigiraf, and I mean, it's alright. I don't have one in my game yet because I just don't find it that interesting. I do like how its tail becomes its head, but other than that, it's just average to me. Oinkologne is the evolution to the infamous Lechonk, and yeah, I don't know why I was expecting something cool. But it has a lot to live up to, so ignoring how much people love Lechonk, it's a pretty good and fitting evolution to Lechonk. I also think it's cool how it has 2 forms, for male and female. Spidops looks like a middle stage to me. It has the stats for being a middle stage, right? And it doesn't completely achieve what it's meant to look like. But do you know Beedrill's stats were this bad? They're worse than Spidops. And Beedrill is a 3-stage Pokemon. Chi-Yu is another member of the Ruin Pokemon, and to be honest, it doesn't really look like it fits in with them to me. I think it's a cool design and all, and I think it's cool that we got a Goldfish Pokemon, and it's not water type, but it's also fire type, which fits with being a goldfish, and it's bright orange and red and all. I think it's cool and all, but I don't think it fits in with the rest of the Ruin legendary Pokemon. I think it's cool that they gave Magneton legs, but something about it's just awkward to me. I like that it gains the ground type, but that's really all I like about Sandy Shocks. These 4 spots belong to Iron Treads, Iron Hands, Iron Thorns, and Iron Bundle. They're all just robot versions of their original Pokemon. It's cool and all, but it's kind of boring. I think everyone expected there to be something related to Taurus in this generation, because Bulls have so much to do with Spain. And I'm glad it was a regional variant, and even more glad that it's a fighting type. It's a big upgrade from Tauros, but I don't know how you could make Tauros worse. It's also cool how they gave it an extra form depending on which game you're playing. Fire type in Scarlet and Water type in Violet. Personally, I prefer the Fire type to the Water one, but I'm still ranking them all in the same section. Before the games came out, Setitan was probably one of my least favourite Pokemon of the ones that have been revealed. But even though it hasn't been long, I've warmed up to it from seeing its pre-evolution waddling around everywhere. Maschiff and Mabastiff are really just average dog Pokemon. We got 3 different dog Pokemon families in the same generation. so it doesn't really help that Maschiff and Mabstiff are the worst of them. They only get extra points because of their inclusion in Arven's story. Dashbun is a really cool evolution to Fido, but unlike most people, when Fido was revealed, I wasn't absolutely in love with it. I thought it was cool and all, and it was cute to have a fairy type dog Pokemon, but I knew its evolution wasn't going to be that good of a design or good and competitive. And I was right. I kinda like how it cooked in between evolution, and its ability is fitting for the Pokemon itself, but that's it. Cloth. Cloth. I like Cloth. Cloth is a cool crab, and it has a good ability, but its stats and typing bring it down a bit for me. But just look at it. Cloth. Great Tusk and Screamtail are both a big improvement over their original Pokemon. Their typings are an improvement, their designs, they're just good Pokemon. I like bug type Pokemon that you can't tell at first sight if they're bug types or not. But when you find out they are, it just makes their design more interesting. That's just my experience with Nimble. Espathra is a cool Pokemon, and Flittle is just as weird as Espathra. And very fitting. I think they're both cool, but just this spot goes to Flittle. One pre-evolution I think is cooler than its evolution is Tadbulb. As I already said, I'm not the biggest fan of Bellibolt, but Tadbulb is just so clever, because making a tadpole Pokemon that looks like a light bulb is just perfect. I also like Wiglet more than Wugtrio. The white is just more fitting for it, and since it is a first stage, it doesn't have to look more complicated, and for being a Diglett form, I approve. Varoom is a cool first steel and poison type. I don't think it's as cool as its evolution, but I still really like it. I actually had it on my team at one point, but it just didn't work well with the rest of my team, so I had to take it off. Earthworm is actually a pretty good single stage Pokemon. Its ability Earth Eater is really cool and unexpected, and it eliminates one of its weaknesses. When I first saw Capsicid, I thought for sure it would evolve into a grass dragon type. And I would have really liked that, but I am super happy with Scovillain. I know a lot of people have a problem with it, and I know making a pepper Pokemon is super boring way of making the first grass fire type, but I don't really care.
Yeah, boy.
I still really like it, and I actually had it on my team at one point. Cyclizar was always a really good Pokemon before the games kind of came out, but making Koraidon and Miraidon an actual Paradox form of Cyclizar is just so cool. And I think it's a really fitting Dragon and Normal type. Its shiny's really cool as well. I really like Iron Moth. It's so cool how its wings are separated segments from its body, and the fire poison type is so weird for it, but it's so cool. I really didn't think Gimmighoul was going to get an evolution, but I'm so glad it did. Goldengo is such a cool evolution for Gimmighoul, and I love how it references the Silver Surfer, but it's gold. I love its typing, its stats, its ability, and its signature move. The only reason it isn't higher up is because the design isn't that good. It's alright, but it could be better. When I first saw Tandemaus, I thought the design was a bit meh, but that doesn't really change for Mousehold either. But the way you evolve it is so funny. It evolves by chance while you're not looking, and when you're not looking there's more, because mice reproduce really quickly. Also, the names alone just brought it up this far. Tandemaus and Mouseholds are such good names, and it uses the German spelling of mouse because rat kings, which are German, are a bunch of connected mice. Also, it's surprisingly good in competitive Pokemon for being a normal type. I know a lot of people don't like Flamigo, but I actually really do. Of course, its name is just amazing. You just remove one letter from Flamingo and you have amigo in it, which is friend in Spanish. I had a Flamigo on my team for a while because I caught an over-leveled one, and even though it wouldn't obey me, it really helped me with Larry's gym. Knackley and Knacklestack are just perfect salt Pokemon, and they're both so unique and cool. I also really like their names, which begin with NaCl, which on the periodic table, salt is NaCl. I really didn't expect to see a sushi Pokemon in Spain, but it's so cool. Tatsugiri has 3 forms, which all work differently with Dondozo, so they all take up this one spot. I don't think anyone expected Titan to have a pre-evolution this cute. I mean, I didn't even think Titan would have a pre-evolution, but this is just perfect. Citadel is so cute compared to Titan, and it's just such a fitting baby Pokemon. I didn't think I'd like the Pokemon on front of the car so much, but I actually do. Revavroom is such a cool and unique Steel and Poison type. I had it on my team, but yeah, I don't anymore. Smoliv was a bit plain when I first saw it, but its evolution just made it so much better for me. Dolliv is such a fitting evolution to Smoliv, and isn't really what anyone was expecting. It also really fits the grass normal type. The way you encounter this Pokemon when it's a Titan was just so cool, and it gave me a better look on Dodozo as a whole. And I actually really like it. It also is really cool how it's tied to Tatsugiri. Espathra is a really cool Egyptian ostrich. Do I need to say more? Garganical is such a good evolution to Knackley and Knacklestack, and I'm really glad they didn't mess it up like Roly-Coly. It's also actually really good in competitive Pokemon for being such a tank. Glimmet is actually a really good pre-evolution to Glimmora. It's kinda just a sack, but it really fits in with being in the Glimmora line. Paldean Wooper is such a fitting regional variant to everyone's favourite Wooper. It is just a brown Wooper in my eyes, but I know if I rank it any lower, I will die. When Greavard was revealed, I don't know a single person that didn't love it. I mean, yeah, it's our 3rd dog Pokemon in this generation, but still, it's a really successful, cute ghost-type Pokemon. And Houndstone just improves on all the elements of Greavard. And it just looks like a skeleton, which is so cool. Also, apparently it's really good competitively because of its signature move, which is also crazy. So everything about this Pokemon is just great. Tarantula is a really successful early root bug Pokemon, based on a tarantula, which you would expect to look scary, but it's almost cute and surprisingly doesn't look that goofy. I really like the direction of which this Pokemon was going in. Ting-Lu and Chien-Pao are the superior half of the Ruin Pokemon. Chien-Pao is my favourite looking, despite everyone else saying they didn't like it. And I used it on my team for a bit because it's one of the only Gen 9 Pokemon that could learn False Swipe. But eventually I swapped it out for Ting-Lu, because it's actually a really good tank because of its ability, HP and defense. Definitely the 2 superior Ruin Pokemon. You know when you're walking around an Aero Zero? Wait, is that a Pokemon? Glimmora is literally a flower, and it's rock poison type. First of all, that type combo is so cool. It fits Glimmora so well, and its ability is so cool as well. I just love this Pokemon so much. Clodsire is a goofy fellow. I prefer it to Quagsire, and I'm so glad they went in this direction compared to making a Paldean Quagsire. I mean, look at him, he's literally a blob. Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant are obviously the best Paradox Pokemon. I mean, they're kind of designed that way because they're both more rare than all the others. They're both equal in my books. I love how Roaring Moon references Mega Salamence, and I love how Iron Valiant is a mix of Gardevoir and Gallade. All some of my favourite Pokemon, just an improvement, and they're both so cool. Now we're on to the starters, and even though I chose Quaxley myself, how can I love this goofy guy? Quaxwell is strange, but it is a good bridge from Quaxley to Quaxavel, so that's why I ranked it here. Crocalor is just another goofy guy. Why are these two some goofy guys? But seriously, this is again a good bridge from Fuecoco to Skeledirge. I also love how its head is a sombrero, but it is also a nest with an egg in it, hinting towards its final evolution. Speaking of its final evolution, these two spots go to Skeledirge and Meowscarada. I really like how Scarlet is finally a more animalistic starter, unlike the previous 3 in Gen 8, which had all been humanoid. And Meowscarlet was originally my least favourite, but I've warmed up to it since the games came out, and actually really like it now. Unlike all the other stages of the starters, the first stages are all equal to me. I don't really have a favourite first stage, but I only chose Quaxley because its final Evo was my favourite. Despite me saying earlier that Roaring Moon and Iron Valiant are the best Paradox Pokemon, in my opinion, my favourite is actually Fluttermane. Now I'd say this is only true because Fluttermane is so good competitively, and I use one on my team, but I also think it's really cool how they took a baby Pokemon and made it look fully evolved. I never really had a favourite between Armarouge and Ceruledge. Ceruledge is a lot edgier, pun intended, but Armarouge is just overall cool. I wish I could have had one on my team during the game while I was playing it, but I couldn't find a Charcadet anywhere. We've been waiting more than 25 years for a dolphin Pokemon, and we finally got one. And we got a really good one. Finizen and Palafin are just perfect dolphin Pokemon, and they're both so cute. The only thing I don't like about it is how Palafin hardly changes when it evolves from Finizen. But Palafin's hero form redeems it. It's so cool how it has to switch out of the battle to turn it into its hero form because it doesn't want people to see its secret identity. Also, its stats are just crazy. I know a lot of people don't like low kicks, but I think it's just absolutely badass. It's totally deserving of the title of the first ever bug dark type Pokemon. The only bad thing about it is that the stats just aren't the best, but they're a lot better than Spidops. So I had a low kick on my team for most of the game. I don't know how you would expect me to rank a pseudo-legendary any lower than this. Frigibax, Arctobax and Baxcalibur are the new pseudo-legendary line for this region, and I really like the idea of a Dragon Ice type pseudo-legendary. I couldn't find a Frigibax for most of the game, but as soon as I found one, I instantly put it on my team and turned it into a Baxcalibur. Also, Arctobax is just a really cool middle stage Pokemon. I really don't think anyone was expecting Bisharp to get a new evolution in this generation. I mean, its stats are way better than Spidops. But yeah, King Gambit is Bisharp's evolution. And when you think about it, it kind of makes sense, because the Pawniard, evolves into a Bisharp, which is a Bishop. And it doesn't make sense to stop there. So having him evolve into a King makes so much sense. Also, this design is just badass, it's so cool. Wow, we're at the top 10 already. Well, for number 10 it has to go to Charcadet. It's a really fitting pre-evolution to Armarouge and Ceruledge, and I think it is honestly just cute. It's not too over-designed, but it's also not too simple, like most baby Pokemon. Speaking of baby Pokemon, Tinkatink is just a little baby. Yeah, I really like this line, and Tinkatink is my least favourite of the 3 in this line. But that's only because the others are so damn good. Yes, the best starter Pokemon of this generation. It is Quaxaval. When I saw the leaks before the games came out for the starters, I instantly said that I was going to choose Quaxley. First of all, water fighting is a really cool typing, and Quaxaval, surprisingly, just doesn't look that bad at all. I really like this starter Pokemon, but it is only the best final Evo. But the best second Evo has to go to Florigato. In fact, it might be the best starter second Evo we've ever had. It's just perfect in every way. It's a perfect transition from Sprigatito to Meowscarada, especially because it has the big task of making an evolution to Sprigatito that has to stand up, and doesn't feel awkward. The box art legendaries of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are probably the best we've had in generations. But unfortunately, I chose Scarlet, which means Miraidon is the lesser of the two. But that doesn't mean it's bad. It's an amazing counterpart to Koraidon, and it's probably better competitively because its electric stab gets extra damage because of electric terrain. But Koraidon doesn't get that with harsh sunlight. Speaking of legendaries, number 5 goes to Lechonk, the infamous Lechonk. To be honest, I don't really know if I could have ranked it this high if the only 2 shinies I got were 2 shiny Lechonks. Anyway, I just had to rank Lechonk this high. Sorry. Back to the Tinkatink line, this spot goes to Tinkatuff. When I first saw Tinkatuff, I thought it was a fairy fighting type, which would have been cool and all, but I think it's even cooler that it's fairy steel. I think there's a great progression between Tinkatink and Tinkaton, and it honestly doesn't look like a stereotypically awkward middle stage Pokemon. I mean, I did expect them to do something with Primeape in this generation, but I didn't know exactly what. But I'm so glad with what they made. Annihilape is such a cool name, and the design is so badass. I would have never thought of giving Primeape the ghost typing, but apparently its Pokédex has been hinting it since the beginning. And my second favourite Pokemon of Gen 9 is Koraidon, of course. One of the best box art legends I think we'll ever have, and forming a bond with it over the course of the game by riding it, it just makes it one of my favourite Pokemon of Generation 9. But what exactly is my favourite Pokemon of Generation 9? You've probably guessed it by now, it is Tinkaton. I had it on my team for most of the game. Its lore is really funny, its typing is so good, its signature move is really good, and the design overall is one of my favourite in the whole game. So yeah, I've ranked all 117 new Pokemon and new Pokemon forms in Scarlet and Violet. I really enjoyed these games, and they introduced an amazing generation of Pokemon with them. Oh god, I spent 6 hours writing the script, and now I have to spend more than triple that editing it.